Amusement parks are meant to be a haven of thrills and laughter, where screams are from excitement, not terror. But what happens when the fun turns fatal? In this chilling countdown, we're diving into the 5 most disturbing deaths ever to occur on amusement park rides. From heart-stopping falls to horrifying mechanical failures, here are 5 tragic adrenaline-fueled amusement parks that cost lives. In April 1997, the Wildcat roller coaster at Bell's Amusement Park derailed, hurling 14-year-old Patrick Kurek to his death. Roller coasters are often the crown jewel of any amusement park, embodying the thrills and adrenaline rush that draw millions of visitors each year. As some of the oldest and most iconic amusement rides in history, they've become a symbol of fun and daring adventure. But beneath the twists, turns, and gravity-defying loops lies a chilling reality. Roller coasters are also the deadliest rides in the park. In the span of a decade, a staggering 73% of deadly amusement ride accidents in the U.S. occurred on roller coasters. Could the issue be tied to outdated technology? After all, many of these rides were constructed decades ago, back in the 1970s and 80s. One such tragic example is the infamous Wildcat ride at Bell's Amusement Park in Oklahoma. In 1975, Bell's Amusement Park introduced the Wildcat, a roller coaster featuring a single car capable of carrying 4 passengers. At its peak, the ride climbed to the height of a 4-story building, promising a thrilling drop. But in April of 1997, the Wildcat's thrill turned into a horrifying nightmare. At the coaster's highest point, a car derailed with 3 teenagers on board. Hurtling uncontrollably back down the slope, the car collided with another one waiting to begin its ascent. The impact was catastrophic. The crash flung 14-year-old Patrick Kurek and his classmates Ryan and Deontay from their seats. Patrick tragically lost his life at the scene, while Ryan and Deontay were rushed to the hospital with severe fractures and head injuries. In the second car, a man named Johnny Fagan and his 3 young passengers, a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old, were left shaken but escaped with only minor injuries. The park's handling of the tragedy only added fuel to the fire. Instead of halting all operations to investigate, the owners chose to keep the other rides running, claiming they didn't want to cause panic. But as details of the incident emerged, it became clear that visitors had every reason to be alarmed. The Wildcat's derailment wasn't just a freak accident. It was the result of multiple mechanical failures. First, the car detached from the wire rope responsible for pulling it to the top. Then, the emergency brakes, designed to stop the car in such situations, completely failed. These combined faults set the stage for the deadly disaster. Shockingly, after the accident, the Wildcat wasn't destroyed. Instead, it was relocated and reassembled at another site. Bell's Amusement Park itself remained in operation until 2006 when it was closed, not for safety concerns but due to issues with rent. Today, its abandoned grounds stand as an eerie reminder of its dark history. The story of the Wildcat is a chilling example of how outdated technology, inadequate maintenance, and poor decision-making can turn a day of fun into a tragedy. While roller coasters continue to captivate thrill-seekers, this tale serves as a sobering reminder of the risks that come with pushing the limits of adrenaline-fueled entertainment. So, next time you strap in, take a moment to appreciate the engineering, but also the responsibility behind the ride. Every single one of these cases is an unspeakable tragedy, but some go beyond heartbreak and plunge into the realm of horror, making our blood run cold. Take, for example, the chilling events that unfolded at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California, on September 21, 2001. What began as a private party, meant to offer some relief to 40-year-old Lori Mason Lors, ended in unimaginable sorrow. Lori, a mother of 5, had joined the celebration with her 4 older children, while her youngest stayed home with her husband, who was gravely ill and awaiting a liver transplant. It was a day meant to bring a brief escape from her family's struggles. As the evening drew to a close, the group decided to end their day with one last ride. The Perilous Plunge, a heart-stopping attraction that soared to a towering height of 37 meters. Passengers were lifted to its peak before being hurtled down into a pool below at a blistering speed of 80 km/h. Despite the ominous name, Lori had no reason to hesitate. She was 177 centimeters tall and weighed 128 kilos, but noticed no posted restrictions for overweight riders. Confidently, she boarded the raft with her 3 children. Her 12-year-old daughter even helped secure the safety belts, which turned out to be a bit too short. No staff member intervened to ensure the belts were properly fitted or that Lori was seated safely. As the raft climbed to its peak and began its final descent, tragedy struck. The raft tilted forward, and Lori was thrown from her seat. In a terrifying sequence, she hit her head during the fall, resulting in a catastrophic skull fracture. Moments later, the impact of her body tore off one of her limbs. Lori's children, frozen with horror, watched helplessly as their mother fell to her death. She was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to her injuries within an hour. An investigation revealed a chilling web of negligence. Faulty ride structures and inadequate safety restraints were identified as primary causes of the accident. Even more shocking, the Perilous Plunge did have weight restrictions, but they were not properly communicated or enforced. Despite these glaring safety oversights, Knott's Berry Farm employees allowed Lori to ride, failing to ensure her restraints were secure. The aftermath brought some semblance of justice. Lori's family filed a lawsuit, ultimately accepting a settlement agreement. Yet, in a decision that left many questioning the park's priorities, the Perilous Plunge continued operating for another 11 years before finally being shut down. Stories like Lori's serve as grim reminders of the life and death stakes behind amusement park thrills. They highlight the importance of accountability and strict safety measures, showing how lapses in judgment and communication can lead to irreparable loss. And while some companies at least attempt to offer settlements after such tragedies, others barely acknowledge their negligence, sometimes even when entire families fall victim to their oversight. Each story reveals the devastating consequences of ignoring the red flags that haunt the dark side of thrill-seeking adventures. 5 family members in Busan plummeted to their deaths from this Ferris wheel, a tragedy that spanned 3 of their generations. Unbelievable, isn't it? When you think of Ferris wheels, you picture a gentle, serene ride with breathtaking views. Definitely not a scene of unimaginable horror. But for one family in Busan, South Korea, this beloved amusement ride became the stage for an unspeakable tragedy. The setting? A movable attraction park known as the World Carnival, which offered 30 thrilling rides, including a towering 66-meter Ferris wheel. On August 13, 2007, the ride was bustling as usual, and one of its compartments was occupied by a family of 7, spanning 3 generations. As the giant wheel began to rotate, their cabin malfunctioned. Instead of smoothly adjusting to stay upright, it abruptly stopped, leaving the passengers helplessly shifting to one side. The family piled against the cabin's glass window. Then, the unthinkable happened. The glass, unable to bear the weight, cracked, and in a heart-stopping moment, 5 members of the family fell 20 meters to their deaths. The victims ranged from just 7 years old to 68, leaving a community and the survivors devastated. Against all odds, 2 passengers managed to cling desperately to the wheel and survive. Among them was a 70-year-old man, John Eun-sung, whose miraculous survival was overshadowed by profound loss. He said, "The slowly moving gondola suddenly stopped and turned upside down, and family members fell in a flash. In an instant, nearly his entire family was gone. But what could have caused such a catastrophic failure? The shocking answer boiled down to something so small, yet so devastating. A single, improperly installed screw. That tiny screw, meant to secure the cabin and keep it aligned during the ride's rotation, had been installed incorrectly. Instead of ensuring the passenger's safety, it blocked the mechanism that was supposed to keep the cabin upright, turning it into a death trap. One screw was responsible for claiming 5 lives. If you think that such a massive failure would result in swift accountability, think again. Shockingly, no employees from the park were arrested, and no significant action was taken against those responsible. The negligence that led to this tragedy was met with inaction, leaving grieving families without justice. Even worse, the World Carnival continued operating after the incident, as if nothing had happened. It's a grim reminder of how sometimes, even the most devastating events fail to trigger change or accountability in the amusement park industry. This horrifying story begs the question: if a tragedy of this magnitude doesn't force law enforcement to act, what happens with lesser incidents? Those where lives aren't lost, but danger is evident. It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? After all, when you step into an amusement park, you trust that every screw, bolt, and mechanism is meticulously maintained. Yet, stories like this prove how deadly negligence can be. A thrilling adventure at the world's tallest water slide at Schlitterbahn Water Park revealed shocking safety failures that would haunt the park and 10-year-old Caleb's family forever. It was supposed to be a perfect summer day, August 7th, 2016. Michelle and Scott Schwab, a Kansas couple, decided to take their 4 sons to Schlitterbahn Water Park in Kansas City. The occasion, Elected Officials Day, a special annual event granting free park admission to public officials and their families. For Scott, a Kansas state representative, it was a fun family outing, and for their sons, it was a dream come true. Excitement buzzed through the air, especially for Caleb, the Schwab's energetic 10-year-old, who could barely contain his enthusiasm. At the center of Caleb's excitement was Schlitterbahn's crown jewel, Verrückt, a jaw-dropping water slide whose name fittingly means insane in German. Towering 168 feet 7 inches tall, Verrückt wasn't just any slide. It was the tallest water slide in the world at the time. Designed by Jeff Henry, co-owner of the park, Verrückt promised an exhilarating ride from its 17-story drop to its heart-pounding twists and turns. Caleb couldn't wait to try it. The towering slide had no age restrictions, a decision that would later haunt many. A safety consultant had once suggested a minimum age of 16, but this advice wasn't heeded. As a result, Caleb, just 10 years old, was allowed to join his older brother Nathan, 12, for the thrilling ride. When they reached the park, the boys excitedly informed their parents of their plan to tackle Verrückt together. Their father, Scott, gave a simple instruction: brothers stick together. These would be the last words he would ever say to Caleb. The brothers climbed the 264 steps to the top of Verrückt, the anticipation growing with every step. Nathan went first, descending the towering slide with exhilaration. Caleb eagerly awaited his turn at the top. When it was finally time, he climbed into Raft B, sitting at the front while 2 women sat behind him. Together, their combined weight met the park's guidelines, but what happened next was nothing short of a nightmare. As the raft hurtled down the slide, it became clear something was wrong. On the second hill, the raft went airborne, soaring off the chute's surface. Caleb, weighing just 73 pounds, was violently thrown against a metal pole supporting the ride's netting system. The impact was fatal. Caleb was decapitated instantly. Witnesses at the bottom watched in stunned horror as the tragedy unfolded. Caleb's brother Nathan, who had been waiting, saw everything. He screamed, "My brother flew off the slide," as their mother, Michelle, tried to reach Caleb, only to be stopped by onlookers who knew the scene would be too much for any parent to bear. Scott, Caleb's father, was left shattered when he learned his son hadn't survived. The tragedy sparked an investigation that revealed a series of horrifying safety failures. Caleb's lightweight created an uneven distribution in Raft B, causing it to go faster and more airborne than others. Shockingly, Verrückt had been plagued with problems even before it opened. During testing, sandbags repeatedly flew off the rafts, and engineering experts had flagged serious risks. Yet, the ride debuted anyway, with Jeff Henry defending its safety. Caleb's death wasn't an isolated incident. 13 other riders had suffered injuries on Verrückt, including concussions and spinal damage. In the aftermath of Caleb's death, Schlitterbahn reached a $20 million settlement with the Schwab family. Verrückt was dismantled, and the water park itself shut its doors in September 2018. Legal charges against Jeff Henry and others were eventually dropped, but the tragedy left a lasting scar on all involved. What began as a day of joy became an unimaginable nightmare. A chilling reminder that even the most thrilling attractions can harbor deadly risks. Rosa Ayala Esparza lived for adventure and making memories with her family. On July 19, 2013, during her first trip to Six Flags over Texas, she decided on one last thrill before heading home. But what began as a day of joy ended in unthinkable tragedy, changing her family's lives forever. On the warm summer evening of July 19, 2013, Rosa Ayala Esparza and her family were soaking up the excitement at Six Flags over Texas in Arlington. It had been a day filled with laughter, thrill-seeking, and making memories on some of the park's most iconic rides. As the day wore on, it was nearly time to head home. But Rosa, with her adventurous spirit, had one final ride in mind, one that would tragically mark her last adventure ever. At 52 years old, Rosa was on her first ever visit to Six Flags. She was a vibrant woman, eager to explore new experiences, and that day she was joined by her daughter and son-in-law. Six Flags over Texas, renowned for its high-octane attractions, was the perfect destination for thrill-seekers like Rosa. One ride in particular had caught her attention, the new Texas Giant. This hybrid roller coaster, combining the nostalgic charm of wood with the smooth precision of steel, had been revamped in 2011. Towering 153 feet tall with a stomach-dropping 147-foot plunge, it was touted as one of the park's crown jewels. However, beneath the gleaming surface of this thrill machine lay a grim legacy. The new Texas Giant replaced the original all-wood coaster, which had been shuttered due to safety concerns and guest complaints about its jarring ride. Little did Rosa or her family know that history had an ominous way of repeating itself. At approximately 6:40 p.m., Rosa boarded the new Texas Giant, settling into Car 3. Fellow passengers noted she appeared uneasy, specifically about her safety restraint. Carmen Brown, another rider, later recounted how Rosa voiced her fears that the restraint didn't feel secure. A park employee attempting to reassure her reportedly said, "As long as you heard it click, you're fine." But other witnesses claimed they didn't hear any such reassuring click. Despite her apprehension, the ride began its journey, each car ascending the steep incline to the top. Moments later, screams filled the air, but these were not screams of exhilaration. Rosa's daughter, riding nearby, quickly realized something was terribly wrong. She turned to check on her mother and was met with a horrifying sight. Rosa was almost upside down, her head nearing the floor and her feet pointing skyward. Two passengers behind her desperately tried to intervene but couldn't reach her in time. As the coaster climbed its third hill, the unthinkable happened. Rosa was ejected from her seat. Her family could do nothing but watch in helpless horror. Rosa was thrown from the ride, her body colliding with the structure below. When the ride finally returned to the station, her distraught family begged staff to let them out, desperate to help her. But it was too late. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but Rosa had already succumbed to her injuries. Her body was found wrapped around a support beam in the honky-tonk tunnel, with debris scattered over a harrowing 75-foot radius. The aftermath of the tragedy uncovered unsettling truths. Employees had noticed that Rosa's restraint appeared a little high, or not as tight as it should have been. Additionally, reports surfaced that the safety system, which was supposed to prevent such accidents, had malfunctioned earlier that week. Disturbingly, another rider had reported similar issues with the same car just days before Rosa's accident. Despite this, Six Flags claimed there were no mechanical faults, and the tragedy was officially ruled an accident. Rosa's family, devastated by the preventable loss, filed a lawsuit against the park, seeking justice and accountability. Six Flags settled the case in November 2014, introducing updated safety measures like redesigned restraints and seatbelts. Still, Rosa's death serves as a haunting reminder of the risks inherent in thrill rides and the devastating consequences when safety protocols fail.